my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight. For this I pray. Amen. So I really have missed all of you. I mean, 2 weeks is a very long time to be away. But we need that time sometimes. We just need space. We need to get away. We need to go explore. To take time to go out and see the world. To grow ourselves. And to discover just how we change as individuals and as people. So as I said earlier, I truly thank the church from the very bottom of my heart, giving me this time to go and travel, to go and study, to learn, for that personal and spiritual growth. And words cannot fully express what I experienced in the Holy Land, what I learned, and everything I felt. I mean, pilgrimages are very interesting things because they are a journey not only to another land, but they are a journey of faith. They're a journey of discovery. They're really a journey of self-reflection. You really look deep inside yourself as you see and experience a different culture in a different part of the world. And so I spent 10 days discovering the Holy Land, exploring 2 very separate and distinct lands and cultures, Israel and Palestine. 2 people forever intertwined. And I did talking to people of very deep faith who are wrestling with some very complex geopolitical issues, all while attempting to keep their focus not only on the issues at hand, but on God. So this sermon, just so you know, is not going to be a rehash of my journey to the Holy Land. So there's no describing the sights, the sounds, the smells. No talking about the different points of interest. No slideshow besides what was playing before worship. You see, that presentation is going to come later, after I've had a chance to decompress, a chance to unpack everything I learned and experienced and discovered and witnessed while I was in this amazing country. And I hope that all of you will join me on that evening to learn more about this extraordinary place where our faith was born. So rather than a rehash, this sermon is more about insight into the world around us. It's about God's prophetic call for the church and what it means to live as a faithful people of God. Words cannot describe the Holy Land. I mean, faith really permeates there in everything they say and do. Their faith is woven into the fabric of their lives. And is expressed in so many profound ways. The bells of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre ringing out over Jerusalem, calling people to worship, calling people to the church to pray together. Contrast that with the Muslim call to prayer, so hauntingly beautiful as it is sung from the minarets of the mosque, reminding us all, hurry now, hurry to prayer, hurry to salvation, for God is great. Or the faithful Jews, taking time out of their day to go into prayer at the synagogue, at the Western Wailing Wall, even on the airplane in the early morning hours before we touched down, going to morning prayer. I had my own time in prayer as well, visiting those wonderful holy sites where there was a church on practically every single event that happened within Scripture. Going to the Western Wall on the Temple Mount. Going to the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron. Going into a synagogue, into one of the settlements outside of Bethlehem, and following in the footsteps of Christ. Faith surrounds you in this wonderful land. It is everywhere, and you cannot escape it. But you can ignore it, just like here. So that's something we need to remember. Our faith, it belongs to us. It is ours to do with as we see fit. So we have to decide, are we going to nurture this seed within inside of us? Are we going to allow it to grow? Are we going to foster this spirit of faith in others? Because if we do not, we will surely lose it. Isaiah writes this, "But there will be no gloom for those who are in anguish. In the former time, he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time, he will make glorious the way to the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations." So I want you to imagine this for a second, this promise of Isaiah that comes from God. What Isaiah is describing here is no suffering, no despair, no heartache. To put it in Isaiah's words, no gloom or anguish. From the conquered lands of Zebulun to Naphtali, extending beyond to the Jordan and to the lands beyond the seas, to reach even Gentiles, people like us. This, my friends, this is the glory of God in action. It's where God gathers us in and reminds us of just who we are. That we are people of great faith. But not only people of faith, we continue to be seekers, searching for God. One of the things I learned about my trip is that life in the Holy Land is not easy. But that God is never very far from the hearts and minds and lips of those who need the Lord. Every person here and every person in the world knows pain. We know heartache, and we know that feeling that God is not with us. That we feel abandoned by God in a singular moment. But it's not that God has abandoned us. Rather, God is obscured. God gets blocked out. That gloomy, dark, dank feeling that surrounds us and pushes on us and oppresses us, that fills us with despair, it separates us from God. But despite all of that, God is faithful and God is present in all those moments of our lives. What God does is He continues to call us into a life of rich faith. Because God abides. God's presence is with each and every one of us. But we must reach out on our own. We have to connect with God in that real and personal way. It has to come from ourselves. It can't come from an outside source. God cannot make us choose to be faithful. But Isaiah reminds us of this. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. That's what God's doing. God is reminding us to be faithful. Come into the light, God says. Come and see. Come and know. Seek and share this wonderful thing we have been given. See what God's light does when we're ready to look for it. It pierces the dark. It gives light and hope. It illuminates the faith that is deep within inside each of us. It lights up a world that is battered and bruised. A world of lost faith. But we must be wary of the darkness. Darkness, it sneaks up on us. Like the coming night. I mean, we know in our minds what time sunset is. We never quite see it. We feel it around us, slowly creeping across the earth, just quietly consuming us. There, before we know it. The Israelites experienced this great darkness. They experienced it in a very profound way because they were swept away by forces they could not comprehend. And they wailed and they wondered where God was as they were conquered by foreign foes, as they were taken away into captivity to far-off cities, their homes wrenched away from them, their families separated, the security and safety they felt stripped away, their dignity gone, and their hope all lost. But they were never abandoned, because God shines a holy light into the darkness, the darkest of places. Even in the midst of that gloom, God offers that ray of hope to the people that God calls and the people that God loves. God breaks into the world right when we need God the most. That light, that spark of hope, or a moment of clarity that brings it all into perspective. We worship an amazing God, a holy God, and an abiding God. God with us. Isaiah continues, "You have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with the joy at the harvest, as people exult when dividing plunder." It's a promise from God. It's something that hasn't happened yet. The people were in exile. They were stripped of everything. They were far from their homes. But God says this: the nation will be multiplied. It has been multiplied because I said it will. Your joy has increased even though you feel like you're in darkness. You will experience great joy. While you're lost, while you're wandering, know that I am your God. Your promised joy, your promised prosperity, your promised growth. There will be peace. It is the awesome now, but not yet. But it's God's promise to all of us. That God does not abandon. That God truly is faithful to us in all things. And that God abides. That God is present in all things. I know it's hard to see the light at times, because we grow accustomed to the dark places, hiding from God's light, because we're comfortable there. We think it's for the best. We don't want to face God. We don't want to face the truth of our lives, because we're afraid of God's light. We're afraid of what we might discover in those humbling moments of truth, about what might be exposed. We're comfortable in our own shadow. But God's light is so powerful. It shines into the darkness. It beats the darkness back. And it rests gently upon us. bringing us into the glory of God. For the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressors, you have broken, as on the day of Midian. Remember, even in our darkest, even when we're hiding the most, God is faithful, and God does not leave us. Because God is love. God sent Christ into the world to be a light to the nations, to break the rod of the oppressors, and to throw off the burden of their yoke. God is so amazing. That love burns so brightly and is planted within each and every one of us. It is there for all of God's people. Listen for God, my friends. Listen for that call on your hearts to come into God's light. Trust in God. Trust in Christ. Trust in the faith that you have grown and nurtured. Because that love is so amazing. But it's more than simply amazing. The love of God is infectious. It grows simply by sharing. It is more viral than anything we can put on social media. But also, that love destroys the darkness. It pushes it away. It banishes it forever. So let God in. You don't have to hide any longer. Call on God. Open yourself to the Lord. Let love in. That amazing, holy, pure love. It's there. Because God abides with us all. Amen. Where is your heart calling you today? Are you being called to the light or being called in the shadow?